Okay, let's dive right into this. Most of us just kind of assume that building wealth is this smooth, linear journey, right? You work hard, you save a little bit, and your bank account steadily ticks upward over time. But the reality? It doesn't grow in a straight line at all. It actually moves in rigid, totally distinct stages, almost like climbing a really steep set of stairs. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack the hidden architecture of building money. See, each step on this staircase has completely different rules. And the craziest part? The exact habits that helped you conquer one step might literally be the ones trapping you on the next. Look, have you ever felt that, that specific kind of financial paralysis? You know the one. You're earning way more than you used to. You're dutifully putting money away every single month, but then you zoom out and look at your net worth and it's just completely flat. It is incredibly frustrating. You're running so hard on this treadmill, doing everything you're supposed to do, but the scenery never changes. It's this awful feeling of just being financially frozen in place.
Well, this actually brings us to a guy named John. On his 40th birthday, John's net worth was exactly $93,000. Now, by all visible measures, he was doing great. Good job, decent car, a nice house. He certainly wasn't broke, but he wasn't rich either. And the crazy thing, he hadn't been lazy or careless. His income had gone up year after year. He saved money every month, yet for 6 long years, his net worth barely moved an inch. Every raise he earned just seemed to vanish into thin air. He was completely trapped by this quiet, invisible habit. Now, to understand exactly why John was so stuck, we have to look at the single most important metric that dictates your financial life: your net worth. It is simply everything you own of value minus everything you owe, the whole shebang. It's not your salary, and it's definitely not your job title. The cold, hard math of wealth honestly doesn't care how much money flows into your bank account each month. It literally only cares about what you actually keep.
And that money you actually keep, that dictates exactly where you stand on what we can call the wealth staircase. There are 6 completely different stages here, and each stage totally transforms how you sleep, how you spend, and how you make decisions. The wild thing is, as you climb, you'll realize that some of those early survival habits you leaned on will suddenly just stop working. Let's quickly map out this staircase so we can see the big picture.
Let's just look at how this builds across the extreme ends of the spectrum. Down at the bottom, we've got stage 1, survival. Under $1,000. Down here, every single decision is filtered through fear. A surprise car repair is a genuine crisis. Then stage 2 is stability, where you finally get a little cushion, and that background hum of money panic starts to fade. Skipping way ahead to the top, stage 5 is independence, where your money starts earning a serious salary of its own. And finally, stage 6 is freedom, over $1 million, where your portfolio is the main breadwinner and work slowly becomes an option, not a requirement. But you probably noticed I completely skipped the middle. That's because we need to focus all our attention on the absolute hardest hurdle on this entire staircase.
Here's the kicker. This is where most people spend the vast majority of their adult lives. Stage 3, the plateau. We're talking a net worth between $10,000 and $100,000. This is exactly where John sat frozen for 6 years. It is the widest, flattest, and just the most exhausting step of all. It looks like incredibly slow progress, but it feels like personal failure. But let me assure you right now, it is not a failure. It's simply the hardest math problem in all of personal finance.
Just to ground this in reality for a second, think about this statistic. The median American household net worth is roughly $193,000. That means half the entire country sits below that line. Millions upon millions of people are currently crowded onto stage 3 right now. And the real tragedy? They are almost always blaming the wrong things for being stuck. They're totally convinced that their only problem is their income, that if they just had a bigger paycheck, they'd break free. But the data tells a totally different story.
We really have to look at the cold, unavoidable arithmetic of wealth building here. The late, great investor Charlie Munger summed it up perfectly. He said the first $100,000 is a beast, but you must get it. And he wasn't just being dramatic. He was describing how this specific phase requires an immense, grueling amount of effort for what feels like absolutely zero visible reward.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why Munger was right. Let's run the numbers. If you save $500 a month and get an 8% return, getting that first $100,000 takes a brutal 11 years. 11 years! That is a really long time to stay motivated when it feels like nothing is working. But watch what happens next. At that exact same pace, the second $100,000 takes only 6 years. The third takes just 4 years. The massive aha moment here is that the stairs actually shrink as you climb. Most people simply quit right before the stairs start shrinking.
Sometimes they walk away just 1 year before the math finally turns in their favor.
So why does that first step take so agonizingly long? Well, it's what we can call the leaky bucket. Early on, your own savings are doing all the heavy lifting. Your investment returns are tiny because, well, your balance is tiny. An 8% return on $10,000 is just $800 a year. That's practically invisible. It's less than what a lot of people spend on artisanal coffee in a year. So early investing honestly feels pointless. It's literally like trying to fill a swimming pool with a shot glass. People mistake this slow, quiet start for a permanent dead end, and they just give up.
But contrast that early struggle with the invisible power of compounding later on, the sleeping giant. That exact same 8% return on $500,000, that is $40,000 a year. That is a full-time salary being generated by your money while you sleep. The lag you feel at stage 3 is incredibly real, but it's entirely temporary. You just have to relentlessly fund the account for years before the magic of compounding finally wakes up. Okay, so if the math eventually works out, what is actually locking the door shut for so many people? It's not a low income. It's a rising income that gets spent far too fast. It's lifestyle creep. Every time you get a raise, you buy a slightly nicer car. You get a bonus, you upgrade the kitchen, even if you just use it to microwave leftovers, right? It feels totally reasonable and well-deserved. But every single upgrade quietly raises your cost of living, which simply pushes your financial finish line farther and farther away. It's a dangerous mistake because it wears the mask of success.
Let's actually look at a real-world example of this trap. Let's bring back John and introduce his coworker, Carla. They're on the exact same team, making the exact same salary, $60,000. They both save $6,000 a year, a really solid 10% savings rate. Now, they both get a nice 10% raise, an extra $6,000 a year. They're starting from the exact same position, but their financial futures are about to split dramatically based on one single choice.
Here's the divergence. John decides to spend his $6,000 raise on a better lifestyle, so his savings stay stuck at $6,000 a year. He definitely feels richer, but his real progress has completely stalled out. Carla, on the other hand, keeps her spending frozen exactly where it was. She takes the entire $6,000 raise and routes it straight into her investments. Look at what happens. Her savings instantly double from $6K to $12K. She doubled her savings rate without earning a single dollar more than John. Multiply that choice across 10 years of raises, and Carla will be 2 or 3 whole wealth stages ahead of him.
So the crucial point is this. It's a total paradigm shift. Wealth is built entirely on the gap between your earning and your spending. It is absolutely not about the size of the paycheck. It is all about the size of the gap. This is exactly why a frugal teacher saving 30% of their modest income will completely destroy a high-earning doctor who spends everything they make. Widen that gap, and every stage above 3 arrives so much faster.
Now, we absolutely can't talk about this gap without talking about the massive anchor dragging it down: high-interest consumer debt. You can earn a fantastic income and still have a microscopic net worth if you're drowning in car loans and credit cards. If you're paying 18% interest on a credit card balance, it instantly erases any 8% gain you might make in the stock market. You are effectively running up a down escalator. It's exhausting and it gets you nowhere.
So how do we actually escape stage 3? The source material lays out a definitive 3-step escape plan. First, play defense. Kill your high-interest debt as fast as humanly possible. That's a guaranteed return no stock market can match. Second, freeze your lifestyle and bank every single future raise. Let your income rise while your spending stays perfectly flat. And third, automate your investing. Make it completely hands-off. If the money moves automatically, your willpower never even gets a vote. Do these 3 things and you let the math take over completely.
And man, when that math finally takes over, you cross that $100,000 wall and enter stage 4, momentum. This is where the whole game flips. Suddenly, in a strong market year, your investments might grow by $15,000 entirely on their own. Saving stops feeling like you're endlessly pushing a heavy boulder up a hill. Instead, the boulder is finally rolling forward alongside you. That daily money panic fades quietly into the background, and it is addictive in the absolute best possible way.
But, and this is a big warning here, there is a massive danger zone right before you reach that momentum. It's what we call the 40s trap. For most people, stage 3 collides right with their 40s. This is when your income is nearing its peak, but so is the immense social pressure to signal your success. You want the new SUV, the kitchen remodel, the Instagram-worthy vacations. Your ego desperately wants to prove you've made it. But listen, this is also your very last big compounding window. Money invested at 40 has decades to grow. Money invested at 60 barely has any time at all. Freezing your lifestyle during this specific decade is quite literally the difference between retiring free and retiring trapped.
Which brings us right back to John's epiphany. At 41, John finally figured this out. He didn't find some magic stock, and he didn't even earn a single extra dollar to escape his plateau. He just stopped spending his raises for 3, honestly, boring years. He decided to let his bank account grow instead of his image. And by making peace with looking perfectly ordinary for a little while, his net worth finally crossed the 100K wall and immediately started accelerating. He didn't need a bigger paycheck. He just needed to change his relationship with the finish line.
So I really want you to ask yourself honestly right now, is your real problem your income, or is it every single raise you quietly spend? I challenge you today to sit down and actually calculate your true net worth. Add up your assets, subtract your debts, and find your real number. Stop guessing about your financial future because you absolutely cannot fix a problem that you refuse to measure.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought from our source material. The stall at stage 3 is not a money problem, it's a patience problem. The math always works if you just give it enough time. The wall you are facing is always highest right before it finally falls. So please, don't trade a decade of hard effort for one impatient decision. You are far closer to the momentum than you feel. The only question is, will you stick around long enough to let the math do its magic?